Professor Woud, we are entering our second part of the discussion, and this is a little bit more unpleasant one. We are going to address some problems or challenges in academia. So I'm very interested to hear your opinion because I'm a life science scientist and you're a psychologist, and maybe you face different problems than because, for example, you don't have animal experiments or things like that. And I'm curious to hear, though, about some of the aspects. I always start summarizing some of them. I will be very brief because people heard of it maybe hundreds of times, but it's about publishing, it's about postdoc crisis, it's about permanent positions, maybe toxic environment and management skills from PIs, for example, or organizational skills from PhDs and things like that. There are also other problems, challenges. Can you maybe pick up some, maybe introduce something else, and let's discuss it and maybe try to introduce some solution to this?
Yeah, I think all the challenges you mentioned are challenges I faced myself partly, but also see my team facing, or the generation of PhDs, of postdocs. With the clinical PhDs or the clinical psychologists, we have a second or another problem, that is that if you want to stay in academia in a clinical context, you also need the therapy training, which means that during your PhD, you're also supposed to do the clinical training, which is in fact an own education to become a licensed psychotherapist. And combining that can be quite challenging. So you have the research pressure, the academic pressure, but of course you also have to work clinically. There are also programs that have certain deadlines and limits, and it's quite intense work. So, for example, in my first year when I was working with patients Tuesday, Friday, and on Friday the weekend seminar would start from Friday afternoon and then the entire Saturday. And then on Monday I would have another seminar starting from 2 to 8. And in between I had to do my teaching. So it's quite many things to juggle, and that's quite a demand, which I think is special for clinical psychology, on top of the ones you mentioned. And I can also see that it's becoming even more difficult with our new clinical training, because in fact there's not yet, we're working on this as well, there's no solution yet how you can do a PhD without losing the quality of either program, the PhD program and the clinical training. So I think we really have to see how can we still make sure we have also an academic clinical generation here.
So you think that these two should be separate, kind of?
No, not at all. In fact,
No?
I think, so at the moment there are no plans of how to just simply do them. In fact, I would prefer, we call that the scientist practitioner model, where they are integrated with each other. So where the practical work informs the research and the theoretical work and vice versa. So we would, in my optimal world, we would maybe have the full-time clinical training for those who really only want to work as a clinical psychologist, but also a scientist practitioner route, where those who want to work clinically but also want to do clinical research or PhD can follow that part of the training.
Is this specific for Germany, or this is also like kind of in the Netherlands? Was it the same way, different countries?
Yeah, it's in fact it's not exclusive for Germany, but so also when I was doing my PhD in the Netherlands, there were people who did the clinical training and their PhD, and that's as tough as it is here. But I think in Germany we really have a problem because of the change in law and the new type of clinical training we have now.
And what about the other that are kind of common to all scientists, some of the ones that I mentioned?
Yeah, no, that's also, I guess, the same here. So, in fact, when I was doing my postdoc, and also now that I'm here in Göttingen, I really try to also do some work in early career support or mentoring programs, because I think it can be quite tough sometimes. So you have the pressure to publish optimally in high impact journals, optimally a lot. You have to write grants to show your independence, but there's not much security in the system. And depending on in what type of level you are, this might also collide with personal situations. So, for example, if you're I'm not sure whether there's a linear relationship between age and academic development, but it can come in a phase where you maybe also start a family or want to buy a house. And there are lots of insecurities which can really be hampering you, and which I think can be also a reason for some people to drop out if there are not any supporting systems in terms of your team, or simply in terms of financial support. So when I was doing my postdoc, my now husband was still in the UK, but he came to Germany when I was pregnant, and he was my maternity cover, in fact, twice. So we shared my postdoc position for 5 years. And that's something where you also need the financial savings to be able to do that. And it worked out. By the end, we didn't have any savings anymore. But there are many aspects in our academic world where people can fail, which is a shame, because they shouldn't fail, because they have the skills and the brains and the drive and everything, but just because of the circumstance. And I think that's a pity and a big problem.
So we definitely need more money.
We always need more money. No, I mean, it's about security and infrastructures. And I mean, a supporting environment can help a lot. But for example, also from my own experience, when we came to the bank for a mortgage, they didn't give it to us because my contract lasted for another 2 years and my husband's for 6 months. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah.
I think they're a little bit more informed right now about these researchers' contracts.
Yes.
That they're like short, and at least when I did the due diligence and informed myself also, I heard about that. But it is indeed very big trouble. It's not like you're highly skilled, trained professional. You will find a job, but the contract is 2-3 years, and you might have to move and. This is not the flexibility that everybody has, especially when you have children. And so, it's a tough one. Yeah. And unfortunately, there are no staff scientist position right now.
No, I think that's a big problem in Germany. We don't have the stable Mittelbau like the English or Dutch system partly has. And I think that would be a very good way to support people in academia and to make it more attractive also.
Yeah, I mean, it's also how effective it is, right? When you have somebody that is trained and already knows, let's say in your case, all the experiments, all the equipment, and then this particular person has to leave in 2 years, so you need to train another one. Yeah. And when you have the staff scientist who is there, he maybe is a brilliant scientist, but he does not want to become a professor and deal with all the administrative, burdens and things, and he just wants to do his thing or her thing, and that's it. Unfortunately, there are not that many. Yeah, and also for teaching, it's not only for research, but also with all the teaching materials you develop, or given your experience, you see, maybe I should add this the next time because that didn't work so well. So you always start over again. And it's also really waste of resources, including my own resources and the team's resources. So no, it would be great if there would be a solution for that. So definitely more money. Where can I sign? More money. All right. Professor Woud, thank you very much for your opinion also on these problems. You're welcome.